Hey Vapers, it's Abby, and today we are going to just sit down, have a little vlog, have a little story time, do something a little bit different. I am back on the Hexome today with, of course, my Mephisto, and this is a third eye drip tip. You can get them on eBay. They also have a Facebook page, and I'm rocking the green button as usual. And today's juice is Comet from Oakwood Vapors. I just got my two 120 ml bottles in, which if you follow me on Instagram at Abby Vapes, you will already know that. I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit of a serious subject, something that I have experience with, something that I went through as I was a smoker and now that I'm a vapor, and I just wanted to share that experience with you guys because I know that some of you can probably relate and some of you may have similar questions and can kind of see the path that I went down and use that in your own life. Alright, so let's get down to business. As you can see, I'm sure from the title, whatever I decide to title this thing, this video is about smoking and vaping with asthma. So this is kind of my story with asthma and how it's affected me, how smoking has affected it, and how vaping has affected it, and kind of just my story. So hopefully you guys enjoy videos like this and will enjoy this. If you do, make sure to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you want to see more videos about my story and my experience. And yeah. Alright, hopefully I won't ramble too much and hopefully I'll stick to the story and remember everything and we can just do this kind of in a couple takes and be done with it. But here we go. Alright, so when I was a kid growing up throughout my middle school and high school and all that jazz, I got bronchitis a lot. I would get bronchitis a few times a year around the winter time, and it would be pretty serious. My tonsils and my neck, my lymph nodes and all that would swell up around my neck. Everything would be in my chest congestion, wheezing, all that kind of stuff. And it was pretty bad. It was bad enough for me to get my tonsils removed when I was, I think, the summer after my freshman year of college, maybe sophomore year. And to this day, I still, whenever I get a cold or flu or anything, it goes straight to my chest. It goes straight to my lungs and I'm hacking and coughing up and I have like kind of that throat close up, shortness of breath. I always get sore throats. It's just how it happens. I feel like some people when they get colds, it kind of goes to their nose or their sinuses. Some people it goes to their chest. And I'm definitely one of those kind of chest cold type of people. So all the way through my childhood years, through high school, through college, I never smoked. You know, I had maybe a couple cloves back in high school because that was the popular thing to do when I was in high school, but I never smoked cigarettes because I was always an athlete. In middle school and in high school and in college, I got an athletic scholarship to go to school, so it was really important to me to stay healthy and to keep my lungs healthy for my performance. Unfortunately, after I got out of college, the summers actually between I think my junior year and a little bit after my senior year, I started serving at a restaurant, and you kind of get caught up in the restaurant industry type deal where you're a server and then you go out afterwards and you have drinks and people are smoking cigarettes, and you know, smoking a cigarette while you're drinking enhances your buzz, and that's kind of how I got dragged into smoking cigarettes. I don't remember my first time smoking a cigarette, which is weird, but I just don't really. I think it's because it was later in life. I didn't start smoking cigarettes until I was 23, 24, and at that time I was only doing it when I went out. I would never really even buy a pack of cigarettes, maybe once a month when I would go out with friends and have a few every night. And then when I was 24, I think, I moved to St. Louis, and St. Louis has kind of a big smoking and drinking culture, I would say. I felt like when I moved there were a lot of restaurants that still allowed smoking, a lot of bars that still allowed smoking inside, and so it was kind of just always there. And so when I went out, I would smoke cigarettes, and it just became more and more and more and more, right? And I think that's how a lot of us get addicted to smoking cigarettes. So it got to the point where I was buying packs. I was buying, you know, a couple packs a week, and it got to where I was buying a few packs a week, and that's really it. I never got too much more than that. And I wasn't really having a lot of issues with bronchitis and being sick because I had my tonsils out, which helped tremendously, tremendously. If you have chronic bronchitis, I would recommend getting your tonsils taken out. It has helped me a lot for when I get sick. It doesn't go, you know, as severely to my chest and my throat. It still goes to my chest, but I think that's always going to be an issue for me. So anyway, so I moved to St. Louis, which was a huge climate change for me. I am from South Florida, and I'm used to sunny skies and palm trees and nice humid air and the beach, and I'm just used to all of that. I grew up around all of that, and so I think it was kind of a shock to my system when I moved to St. Louis, and the cold, dreary weather and the rain, and you know, it just is not a very good place for people that have allergies or are prone to allergies, I guess. So growing up, I never had allergies. I never had any issues with any of that I knew of anyway. And going to St. Louis, it was like, bam, smack, I had allergies. Come, you know, any type of spring, you know, climate change, winter, I was just down and out. So when I was about 25, I think, I got my first pet. I got a dog. She was a boxer American Staffordshire mix. Her name was Honey, and she was a little cute puppy, and I had her for a very long time. And I noticed that sometimes I would get you know, shortness of breath and like some wheezing if I was around her for a prolonged period of time. And I didn't really think much of it. I just always thought that was kind of like status quo for how my lungs were. I don't know why I thought that was normal, but I guess I did. And I found this inhaler that they used to sell at Walgreens or like your local convenience store, they're your pharmacies, but I don't think they sell it anymore because it had like ephedrine or some kind of something in it that they don't allow anymore, or they won't sell over the counter anyway. So I got one of those, and I would use that inhaler, you know, maybe a couple times here and there if I got shortness of breath. So that was kind of like my first clue into maybe having asthma. So fast forward to 2009, when I purchased a house in St. Louis and moved in there with my new puppy who was a boxer. And a couple days after I moved in with my boyfriend at the time. We were both smokers. We had this dog. We moved into the house. And 2 days after I moved into the house, I ended up having an asthma attack. Now, up until now, I had not even been diagnosed with asthma. I had not been on an inhaler except for the over-the-counter one that I purchased at Walgreens. I think it's called, I can't remember. Oh, the inhaler was called Primatene Mist, something like that. Anyway, up until now, I had not been diagnosed with asthma. I had no idea that I was allergic to anything. And a couple days after I moved into the house, I ended up having an asthma attack. I couldn't breathe. I didn't really know what was going on. I had, you know, some wheezing and shortness of breath before, but never anything that serious. And I ended up going to the ER for it, and I really couldn't breathe. I mean, by the time I got to the ER, to the counter to like fill out my information at the front desk, I was like, okay, you know, I mean, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And it was scary. I mean, if you ever have a time where you can't breathe, that is like the scariest thing that anybody can go through. It's just crazy. So, of course, since I was having a hard time breathing, they took me in right away. They, gave me oxygen. They gave me a nebulizer. They put me on all of that. They took my blood oxygen level, where they like put the thing on your finger and whatever. And I was at 80%. And they said that I was like this close to being intubated or whatever, where they like put a tube down your throat and they like breathe for you or whatever. I mean, I was pretty close to probably blacking out because I couldn't breathe. So all up until this point, I had been smoking pretty regularly. Nothing crazy, but maybe like half pack a day, and full packs when I went out to drink. So I was in the ER. They kept me there the entire night, and they ended up admitting me to the hospital because my blood oxygen level was not high enough where they felt comfortable letting me go. I couldn't really walk more than a few steps without being out of breath. I couldn't take deep breaths, and they kept giving me nebulizer treatments throughout the night, trying to get me there. My heart rate was super high because they were giving me steroids and the nebulizer, which has albuterol and all of that stuff in it. So up until then, I was like, okay, I just can't breathe. This is, I don't know what happened. I was kind of confused, and they ended up taking me to, I forgot. So before I went to the ER, I actually went to urgent care, and they took x-rays of my chest, and then they said, you need to go to the emergency room immediately. So that's what I did. So by the time I got to the emergency room, I was like about to pass out because I couldn't breathe. But they had my chest x-rays, and it showed, all this cloudiness in my lungs. And originally they thought, okay, you just have pneumonia, something's happening here. So they admitted me to the hospital. Long story short, I ended up staying in the hospital for 5 days, until they felt like I was healthy enough to go home, until they felt like I could breathe normally and all that stuff. So they almost also, which is kind of a weird whatever, so they also wanted to give me a bedpan. Like, they didn't even think I was stable enough to get out of bed and go to the bathroom and come back because I couldn't breathe normally just walking. So it was a pretty serious ordeal. And after all of that happened, at the end of kind of the 5 days, the doctor came into my room to let me go, and he said, all right, I'm putting you on all these prescriptions, and I want you to visit an allergist because we think that you have allergy-induced asthma. So that was really my first time hearing that I had asthma, that I had allergies, and it was kind of an intense, scary way to find that out. But after the 5 days, he said, all right, I'm giving you this ProAir albuterol inhaler. I'm going to put you on Advair, which is kind of a maintenance inhaler, gives you medicine throughout the course of the day. And he also gave me steroids and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I want you to go see this allergist. And he gave me a recommendation, which I did go see. And so I went to the allergist, and he did that little test on your arm where they like put all the dots of different stuff that you could be allergic to. I think it's like 32 different or more than that maybe on your arms, and they tell you what you're allergic to. So it turns out that I am allergic to cats and dogs. And that was really, really gut-wrenching and hard for me to take because I really, really love dogs. I had dogs growing up, which was crazy to me that I'm allergic to cats and dogs. And I grew up with pugs, with two different pug dogs, and then I had the American Staffordshire and Boxer mix. I've had a French Bulldog, I've had a Great Dane, and I've had another Boxer. So I've had a lot of dogs in my lifetime, and I never knew that I was allergic until I moved to St. Louis and kind of had all these other things working against me, just like kind of exacerbated the problem. And I think that's why it just really blew up and came to kind of that final breaking point where my body just had that attack as we were moving into the house and kind of stirring up probably all of that stuff. So after I got out of the hospital, I went and saw the allergist, found out that I was allergic to cats and dogs, but I still did not want to put my dogs up for adoption, basically, or rehome them or anything like that. I had a Boxer and a French Bulldog at the time, and so I just kind of wanted to deal with it and try and see if I could maintain. And so I had those 2 inhalers and was on those, but it never really got better. I could never really get out of that kind of state where I was always kind of at 80% of my breath, really, it felt like. And at the time, so after I got out of the hospital, I didn't smoke for about 3 or 4 weeks, I think. And then as soon as I started, you know, going out to the bars and drinking and socializing and all of that, I went right back to smoking. And smoking is definitely a trigger for asthma. If anybody is asthmatic and they smoke cigarettes, they will know what I'm talking about. It is a trigger for it, really. You know, cigarette smoke, strong smells can even be a trigger. For me, that is definitely the case. If there's like really like perfumey, like someone has a lot of perfume on, I'll like feel it in my lungs and I'll be like, I can't breathe. That's a little dramatic, but sometimes, you know, that can kind of be a trigger as well. So it's kind of like figuring out all this stuff later in life, as I'm like 28, 29 when I'm figuring all of this out. And I went back to smoking because I was addicted to it, and I continued to smoke, and it just was not good for my health, for my asthma, for my state, and it was just unfortunate. So I was taking the 2 inhalers and all my medicine, and it really wasn't enough because I had these, you know, triggers around me, being, you know, the dog hair and saliva, and then smoking and all of that. And having that albuterol inhaler, I'm pretty sure I abused the crap out of that. It was not good for my body. It was not good for my lungs. And over the course of like the last 1.5 to 2 years before I moved here to Atlanta, I was abusing that. I mean, I was using that inhaler constantly throughout the day, which you're not supposed to do. You're only supposed to use it as a rescue inhaler. I was using it constantly. I was not in a good place. I always felt sick. I always felt like I couldn't breathe deeply. I really couldn't, you know, exercise, work out. I really couldn't do a lot of physical activity, which was really just a shame. And in the last 1.5 years, I was in and out of urgent cares like probably once a month, getting prednisone, getting steroid pills, which if you guys have ever been on that or know that, it is a quick fix to get your lungs back in gear and breathing, but it's really, really bad for you to take that often. And I was going to urgent cares, and I went to the Walgreens Take Care clinics a lot, and to the point where they said, this is a chronic problem, you need to go to a doctor, you can't keep coming here. So it was really kind of scary, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know how to manage it very well, and my allergist would just keep prescribing me these inhalers and didn't really have much of an answer, or didn't seem as concerned that I was using this inhaler so much. So fast forward to a year ago when I decided to, well, I guess it's been almost 2 years now, I decided to move to Atlanta. 6 months prior to that, I had started thinking about quitting smoking. I really wanted to just quit, and I found vaping. And so I started looking into vaping. I got my first setup with my Ego battery and my Kanger EVOD, I think is the tank that I first purchased. And I started using that, but I was also smoking too, so it was kind of like a way to just kind of wean myself off of the smoking. And I decided to move to Atlanta to be closer to family and to be in a better climate, warmer climate, something more that I'm used to. And I thought that moving to Atlanta would be kind of a fresh start for me. I had broken up with my boyfriend. We had been together for almost 5 years, so it was a huge change for me, and I just wanted to make this huge change. Stop smoking, start vaping, move to Atlanta, be in a better climate, be near my family. It was kind of a huge change for me. So I ended up moving to Atlanta in 2013, and it was a really amazing change for me, and I'm so glad that I moved here because the climate just agrees with me so much better. Immediately I felt so much better, and I started vaping, and I think after I lived here for a few months, I pretty much quit smoking altogether. I have been vaping now for about 2 years, and I kind of just never looked back. So when I got to Atlanta and had health insurance, I went to my doctor and I said, hey, I have asthma. This is what I was on before, yada yada. So they kind of had to go through the whole spiel again and give me what I was already on, and then I had to go see them like for a few months, every month, just to kind of check in and say, hey, this is what's going on. So initially I was still using that inhaler quite a lot. I think at that point it was kind of like a go-to, like, oh, I can't breathe, okay, take it. Oh, I can't breathe, okay. So after I started vaping and completely quit the cigarettes for about a month, I would say, I started feeling so much better, so much better. And I didn't get sick as much, and I didn't feel like I was always like lethargic and bleh, and like couldn't breathe. And you know, before I just felt like I was like in a constant state of sickness, and so much so that it became like that's just how I am, like that's just how I feel, which is weird to say, but you kind of like get so used to your body feeling like crap that that's kind of like how you just feel, and it's just normal. And it was amazing. Like after a month, I feel like my lungs started clearing out, and I just felt better. I felt like I could take a breath and just breathe normally, and it was the most amazing feeling ever. And I was vaping during this time, completely vaping. You know, I think at that time I had gotten my MVP and was kind of like upgrading, and it was just awesome. And so I kind of went on a mission to quit using my inhaler so much, and I never really thought I would be fully off of it, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna rely on this as much to clear my lungs. I'm gonna try to just, you know, breathe normally and kind of wean myself off of it, because I knew the chemicals in there and the albuterol and stuff, I shouldn't be using that every day. So this was about March of last year, 2014. I had my last inhaler, and I went through that, and then that was it. That was it. It's been a year since I've used an inhaler, you guys, and I used to be so dependent on it, and now that I'm vaping full time and I'm living in a climate that I'm used to and all of that, it's just been so amazing. I haven't really felt the need to use an inhaler. Now, there have been times, I'm not gonna lie, that I felt like if I got sick and then it went to my chest, because it still does, and then I'm having a hard time breathing, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't overcome by just keeping calm and breathing normally and, you know, getting through it that way. And it's been so great. So I just wanted to kind of make this video, make this kind of like little story time video and talk to you guys about my experience with asthma and smoking and how it can get so much better switching to vaping. And I haven't had any issues with vaping and, you know, having shortness of breath. The only time that I will say I've had some issues was when I did the ghost inhale video. I was having a lot of issues with getting like a little bit of shortness of breath, and it kind of freaked me out, so I stopped the video. But other than that, vaping has been just an amazing change from smoking cigarettes in terms of asthma and my breathing and feeling better and not feeling as congested and sick and, you know, mucusy and all that gross stuff. So I also think that just being off of the inhalers, I feel like I'm starting to repair my lungs. I've started to repair my lungs and gone through that process and just getting everything better in here and just not being as dependent on that stuff. And it's just been super great. So I think that's all I have to say about my experience with asthma, smoking, and vaping, and all of that. I want to hear your guys' experience. If you are asthmatic, if you've been diagnosed with asthma, if you suffer from that, please leave a comment below and tell me your story. I'd really love to hear it. If you went from smoking cigarettes to vaping and how that affected you. And I'm really curious to see if anybody has issues with vaping at all, if they are asthmatic, because for me, it's been a lifesaver. It's, you know, taking me from where I was using an albuterol inhaler like 10 times a day to where now I'm not using one at all, and I'm getting to the point where, you know, my lungs are repaired enough. I feel like I needed to do a lot of repair in there because I think I've just abused them by, you know, shoving medication and all of that kind of stuff down there, and it's just taken this whole entire year to get me back to the point where now I feel really good, and now I'm to the point where I can start working out again. And I know a couple of you probably saw the rowing machine in the background of my last video, so it just makes me really happy that I'm at that point now where I can do that. And if it wasn't for vaping, I don't know if I would have been able to quit cigarettes on my own cold turkey or with any other type of you know, patch or any other type of cessation device. So I'm really thankful for that. So I appreciate you guys sitting with me and chatting with me about this issue. I hope that it helps you out and it kind of sheds some light on the issue, or you can relate, or, you know, it answered some questions that maybe you have if you're trying to quit smoking. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you like story time. If you do, give this video a thumbs up or let me know in the comments that you want to see more videos like this one. I know we haven't done kind of a vlog style video in a long time, so I really enjoy them and I like sitting down and talking to you guys. I know they can kind of be somewhat long, so I apologize, but I just wanted to share that story with you guys. So I'll be back soon. I know I've been slacking a little bit on videos and I apologize. I've been playing a lot of Evolve on my Xbox One. My gamer tag is Miss Molly, M-A-U-L-Y. If you guys are interested in playing with me or you have an Xbox One and you just want to hang out, let me know. Make sure to send me a message too with your friend requests, because I get friend requests sometimes and I don't know where they come from. I love hearing from you guys. If you want to find me on Facebook at Abby Vapes, or you can find me on Instagram at Abby Vapes or Twitter at Abby Vapes, and you can send me messages there as well. I love to read all your comments and messages. Alright guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Psst, psst. Hey, you right there. Why don't you subscribe to my videos? Check out some other ones and, you know, get to know me a little bit. So it forms kind of a square here. So this one comes out, goes under this one. On Craving Vape.
Alright guys, here is the most important part of creating your center post build.